Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings. With me, as always, is your other host, Andrew freaking Cabral. What's up?
What's up, man? I was just about to do a big old stretch, thinking I had a few seconds before I was back on camera, but I didn't
Hey,
do
you
it.
can stretch now.
You ever do one of those, Tim Robbins in the rain stretches from Shawshank?
That stretch, I feel like that's for really, specific moments. Like
I got you.
crawl through a
I
river
feel like it's the best stretch though, because
when
you're
you
like,
crawl through a river of shit, or when you're like maybe you
well, you
finally
feel
got.
like you have. You
Or
feel
it's
like
like
you have.
vacation, maybe something more relatable. Like you're finally on vacation after working for months and months. You finally get to that vacation. I come out and I'm like,
Oh,
yes,
there it
the
is.
fresh air.
There
Yes.
it is. You know what I
But
mean?
I also sometimes do it when it's the day to do chasing labels. And we are here
Yeah.
back for spine number 132. And I want to, I try to remember to say this stuff at the top. Hey, this isn't live on YouTube, but you can also get the audio form the next day after if you don't have time to come to us live. So please go to all your favorite audio listening podcast
Right.
things,
Or if
and
you
we'll
just
be
want to
there.
like play the YouTube and just listen to it, I guess that
Yeah,
works just as
I
well.
mean, that probably runs the battery on your phone a lot
It does. It
harsher,
does. I do that a lot with things, so obviously my I'm constantly charging my phone, like, at
Yeah.
least a couple of times a day.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a lot of phone usage.
do you get the phone usage updates, weekly from your phone?
I do. It did to make us feel bad. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
They do it usually happens on Sunday mornings, and
yeah.
Steven, do you have a number in mind? Because 'Cause I've got a number that's
I
a
don't
little
look
high.
at them. I don't look at them anymore.
Ah, okay, good idea, good idea.
It's
Mine
yeah,
is, like mine hovers between, like, 14 and 15 hours a day. That may
that's
be
a
a problem.
lot, dude.
That
That's
may be
literally
a
like
problem.
most of the time you're awake.
It really is. Um, yeah, that could be an issue,
That's a problem.
but, I
Um,
mean, I gotta know about movies, so come on
well,
now.
when do you watch the movies if you're on your phone looking at your
Well,
screen?
I guess the brief time that I'm not on my phone, I don't know if they see, I don't know if it runs if your phone's just on or if it
Yeah,
counts as, like, you're in an app or you're watching
gotcha.
something, listening
I
to something.
I
I
don't
don't know how it works.
I
All
don't
I
know
know
how it
is my
works.
numbers are really, really high all
Yeah,
the
I
time.
that's not good. But you could just work on that. Work on that for that's New
Thank
Year's
you, thank you.
resolution. But yes, we are on spine number 132 of Chasing Labels. Please, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this page. Of course, also subscribe to whatever audio platform you do, and follow us along, and we'll continue to be in your ears and your eyes. So yes, so let's do this thing. Before we do our rundowns, as usual, looking at the last couple weeks of releases. What you been watching other than stuff for the show? Is there
You're talking to
anything?
me?
Yeah, who you think I'm
Oh,
talking to?
I thought you were just talking to the audience in general.
Uh,
Well, since we've reformatted the show, it's kind of opened things a little bit in terms of me being able to watch other things. Not specifically movies, but more television stuff. You know, a big television fiend, big television watcher as well as movies. So
yeah.
I've been just been catching up on a few things. I started watching that show on the Apple TV Plus called For
Uh,
All Mankind, which I
yes.
think
Yeah.
was one of their like earliest shows, when
That's
they
pretty.
like
It's
flagship
it's
shows.
already got like 4 or 5
Yeah,
seasons.
it's got 4 seasons. I think the 4th season just wrapped up, and I've just been catching up on it, and been catching up on Apple shows in general because that streaming form, I know we talk about physical media here, but that streaming service, they put a lot of money
Oh yeah,
into that and into their shows. Their production values are really, really high. I guess Apple
yeah.
has that type of money,
Oh, they
but I've
do.
been
Yeah,
watching that, and it's a fascinating series where it combines a lot of things that I like,
yeah,
space, science fiction, and, like, history and alternate history.
yeah,
Basically, the general so we don't get too far into it, it starts off with basically what would happen in the space race is if the Russians got to the moon before the United States, and
yeah,
then kind of history is forever changed from that one big moment, and then a bunch of other different things happen, and then it's a whole new, whole new society,
yeah, yeah.
like it's a society in which, um, John Lennon doesn't get assassinated, in
Mm.
which like Ted Kennedy becomes president at one point. So a bunch of alternative history things happen in there.
Yeah, that's
So
fun. That's
yeah,
fun. I like that.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Apple. I agree. Apple. I think what helps them too is that they don't spend a lot of money on licensing. They don't license. I don't believe they license anybody else's stuff. So And now that Andrew's back, he can listen to
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
I think when
I forgot to turn off one thing. I forgot to turn off. Of course, it goes on as soon as I started talking.
yeah,
So
exactly.
always happens.
What I was saying was is that one thing that helps them, I think, when it comes to using money, of course, is that they don't use a lot of money on licensing other things. So they are just making their own content. Now, of course, that you can rent things on their service, but
Right.
they don't have things that are not theirs. You know what I mean? Like they're not Netflix where they
Well,
like.
they do. Well, for example, I was just saying, For All Mankind, I think is produced and made by Sony. So if anything, they probably
Well,
licensed
they
that from
licensed it.
Sony.
I guess but it's not streaming anywhere else.
Right. Right.
It's
Okay.
an
Yeah.
exclusive to them.
Yeah. Usually their
Essentially, they're
original stuff.
they're the distributor of
Yeah.
that. So
Very much. Yeah. It's kind of like, if anything, they're operating in the early days of Netflix. That's what Netflix was
yeah,
before they got into producing their own things and all that kind of stuff. Which it was just kind of like that.
yeah, but
Um.
this is new though.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's not like they're like going to back catalogs and putting up a bunch of older films on their service. They're
Right.
taking new things that are created by maybe other studios. But I mean, I think it's better. It's better that way. They're not.
It's an interesting model. Obviously, they've got the money, the backing to, like, experiment in that,
Yeah.
whereas some other streaming services probably don't have that cachet
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, they
I
didn't.
mean, and they're starting to put out movies in theaters too. I
Yeah.
mean, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's film, Napoleon,
Yeah.
which was Ridley Scott's film. They put that out in the theater, and that was made by them.
Yeah.
And they don't even care if it makes money or not. They're just like, "We're putting it out there." I
Well,
mean,
I mean, like the ones they're obviously going, they're looking for some prestige.
that too.
That's what they're
Yeah.
doing. That's why
Killers of the
they've
Flower Moon did get a lot of award nominations and stuff.
exactly. That's if they're going to put their
And if it
money on
wins
something.
anything, marketing, just put it up there
Exactly.
saying,
That's why they do
"We
it.
did
So
it."
yeah, they're not going to maybe give money to some no name for some big blockbuster thingy. Maybe not that, but
Well,
for a prestige
I'm
filmmaker,
pretty sure I think they already have a Best Picture winner in their catalog, don't they? The
did
movie
they
that won
do?
Best Picture.
Didn't they do the one Coda?
Yeah, I think that Coda was their film,
Yes,
I
I believe
believe.
so. Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. But what have you been watching, Steven? Bringing it up.
I watched a couple things that I've recently bought. I got the 4K of Kindergarten Cop,
Nice,
and
nice.
that was fun to watch that again. And it looks good. It really looks good. It's not, it's not like I'm hearing about some of these other Schwarzenegger movies. The James Cameron appeal. It's not like they didn't use that smoothing and shit like that. It looks good. Looks good. I like it.
Nice, nice.
Um.
I know it
Uh.
recently sold out in a bunch of places, and then a bunch of places just got stock
Yeah.
of them. Orbit DVD just got it back in stock. Diabolic, I think, got it back in stock, and Amazon got it all back in stock. So get your copy while you can before the slipcovers sell out and it becomes super collectible on eBay.
Yes, yes, yes. But yeah, just that, and just like you, like some TV. I'm trying to wrap up watching the show Suits. I'm in the 8th season, so I'm pretty close to being done.
They're doing a spin-off of that actually.
Yeah, it's called Pearson. I know it's on
Yeah,
there.
it's set in Los Angeles, I believe.
Yeah, it's
You know
well,
that.
I think it's Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that show is apparently like the most streamed show now on Netflix.
it's funny because like
It
I,
ended
I mean
years. Yeah, it ended
I
a
mean
while
I
ago.
knew of the show and I'm finally getting around to it. But there's a young kid that I work near. He works near me. He doesn't work with me, but he was telling me he started watching that show. I'm like, I guess because it's on Netflix now, suddenly everybody's yeah,
I see that all the time.
yeah,
When something will so I'll just use it as a baseline. Something will come out in theaters, and then it'll come out in streaming, a couple of months later, however long later, and the online buzz and talk about it is like night and day.
yeah,
It might as well have never even come out in theaters in terms of just the word of mouth via Twitter and via other places. It just everyone starts talking about it, everybody starts watching it, articles start getting written about it, and it was like nobody cared when it came out. And then now all of a sudden, since it's got a little bit of buzz to it, everybody's got their eyeballs on it. Yeah, streaming is able to revive a lot of things. And just in terms of public consciousness, which I guess is one of the benefits of streaming, having more
yeah, yeah.
eyeballs and more access to it.
Yeah, I think that's that, and just keeping things out there longer. When it's in theaters, it sometimes can. I mean, nowadays things are in theaters as much as I love it. They're gone in 2 weeks. Like it's
Yeah, what
yeah.
is interesting is I was just looking at what's coming out this month in terms of physical media releases, and stuff that came out in the theaters in December is already coming out on Blu-ray and 4K and stuff like that, and I'm
I
like,
love that.
"Wasn't this just in the theater?" Like
I do like
Wonka's
that though.
coming out, and I'm like, "Isn't that still in the theater somewhere?" Like, it's
Sometimes
wild.
yeah, that's how it is. But all right. So before we jump in, of course, Josephine's always coming in hot. Some first time watches for her. She watched Giants and Toys. I have that. I believe it's an Arrow release. I haven't watched it yet though. A Simple Plan. Yes, I've seen that. That's the one with Billy Bob and it's like a kind of a noir, like a snow noir. One of them murder mystery type of stories. But she's got some other stuff here. Here's some songs. She's listened to some Closing Time from Semisonic. That's a big one. Shine.
I think I saw Semisonic live one time.
Of course you have. Shine by Collective Soul. I almost saw them once. Some friends said they could get me tickets, and then at the last minute, they're like, I couldn't get the tickets. And I'm like, I hate you.
I think I saw Semisonic open for U2 or somebody. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's
Go on.
I wouldn't want to watch U2.
All right. It was 2001. It was a different time.
It doesn't matter.
That album had just come out, and it was
there's like one U2 album I can stand, and that's the one
really
everybody
wow.
likes.
You know what? There's a lot of U2 slander, but they've been around forever.
They have
A lot of great music.
They got some good songs. They do. Led Zeppelin here, of course, is all good.
Led Zeppelin 4, one of the best albums ever, I think.
It's a good one. Yeah. But and then Humboldt Horror Honey says, "Hey guys." He also approves of your cell phone usage, apparently.
Thank you.
And saw Zone of Interest. What a disturbing movie.
I haven't seen it yet, and I want to see it. And that's kind of like one of the last main 2023 releases that I think is gonna make my top 10. Like, I just have that feeling. I just saw All of Us Strangers, which was just incredibly powerful and made you cry. And I feel like Zone of Interest is another film that's gonna be in my top 10 because of how just emotional.
And apparently, it's good to follow it up with Come and See.
Oh yeah, yeah. Two that's just hard hitting films. Jonathan Glazer is an interesting director. Takes his time between making movies. Wasn't his last film under? It's not Under the Skin. Is it Under the Skin, Steven?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. That movie was amazing. 2013. But yeah. So, do you want to start getting into some of these releases from the last 2 weeks or so?
I guess so.
Okay.
Let's do it.
That is why we're here.
That's why. Yeah. We should talk about some of this stuff. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to a couple? How about one of the early ones? How about some Umbrella?
Okay.
Felt like years ago now, but Umbrella had released some good stuff.
Yeah,
one of the ones
back in January 22nd.
Yeah, one of the ones I want to talk about is I think a pretty popular one. I think Tank Girl. Tank Girl getting a Blu-ray. And I this is a film I'd heard about a lot, and I hear a lot of filmmakers say they were influenced by it. And after finally watching it, because I had not seen it, I can see how it is very Tank Girl itself feels like it's influenced by Mad Max and some other things like that. But it's got a really interesting vibe to it, and it goes a little bit off the rails. I feel like in the second half, it gets a little weird. There's like these humanoid kangaroos and shit. Like it's odd, but there's just something so unique about this movie, and I can see how it's an influence.
Yeah, it's a it's a movie that's based off of a comic book that is just as wacky and just as weird.
Yeah.
This movie came out in the 90s, I believe, and it's a movie that stars Lori Petty, Naomi Watts is in it, Malcolm McDowell is the bad guy, and he's playing such a hammed up like he reminds me of Raul Julia as M. Bison in Street Fighter. Don't ask me why. I just had Street Fighter vibes while watching this movie, which is not. I didn't want to say that as like a bad thing. It just had that very over the top. Like, this is something based off of an IP or something that is meant to be this over the top.
Yeah.
It's meant to be like this. Um, yeah, very like I said, very young Naomi Watts is in the film with I believe her Australian accent, which she doesn't really use a lot in
No.
movies or TV anymore. Um, but the edition is coming in probably two different versions. It's coming with one with extra bells and whistles. It's
Yeah.
got a slipcase, poster, art cards, um, all of these kind of cool artsy things. And the movie is very artsy in terms of its just palette. It's you
Yeah.
know what I mean? There are moments of the movie where they cut to animated sequences, and they're very
Hmm.
brightly colored.
Yeah.
And
That definitely felt like that was something that like Edgar Wright probably like saw this movie and was like, that's something like he would, something like Scott Pilgrim, like it felt very Scott Pilgrim-ish to me.
yeah, Scott Pilgrim is also another good comparison with that, based off of a comic book
Yeah.
that's very much, unique. Um, and what's interesting is uh, the original Scott Pilgrim comic book is black and white. I actually have all of them in my
Oh
collection
yeah.
somewhere.
I almost have wanted to buy that a few times, but then I remind myself that I don't have time to read comics. So what's the
Right.
fucking point?
I read it through once, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a really, really good read. Also very expansive. If you like the Scott Pilgrim world, it's very expansive on that and just kinda gives you more of it and gives you more backstory, gives you more kind of Scott Pilgrim-ish lore. But Tank Girl itself is based off of a comic, which I haven't read, which I kinda really want now. And this movie is very much Mad Max on acid,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
will. It takes place in some dystopian future where I believe it hasn't rained in 10 years because of some cosmic event, some end of the world event. And what has happened is that it just hasn't rained, so water is at a premium. And when water is at a premium, uh, you know, people who have it have all the power. And Malcolm McDowell is one of those people. And
And that's that's what is kind of the main thing that's comparable to like a Mad Max movie is it's like that's one of the biggest, you know, things that people have control over in that time in that dystopian world is who has the water.
yeah,
Um,
and
you
literally
know,
Malcolm McDowell's character is like the evil organization that he kind of runs is called Water and Power. Like it's very
yeah,
literal in terms of
yeah,
what this world is based on. Like who are the good guys, who are the bad guys.
yeah,
The good guys are like this rebel group called the Rippers. There's these DNA spliced half man, half kangaroo creatures, and it sounds about as weird as you think it is. Ice-T is one of them.
yes.
It's yeah, it's wild. What a wild
And
movie.
and I love the I thought it was just so fun the mechanism to how they've created some gadget that can pull water out of people.
Yeah, like they
Uh,
it's pulled out of our blood. I mean,
yeah.
if you well, I mean, people are like what, like 70% water or something?
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say
mean,
when I saw the gadget for the first time, I was like, that that's honestly kind
makes
of
sense.
smart.
Makes
It kind
sense.
of smart, even though it might be super science fictiony that's even possible. It's still like when you think about it, you're like, if we needed water, why don't we just pull it out of humans? Why not? We're made up of it, right? I
I
mean,
mean,
it's simple, but it's
it's
like,
interesting. Yeah, I mean, Dune 2 is coming out next month, and something that's part of Dune is how sacred water is because it's a
yeah,
desert planet. And the Fremen, who are like the indigenous peoples of Arrakis, water is super sacred to them. So something even as like tears or crying would be considered like a waste of water. Like
yeah,
it's that important. So that's a little connection to Dune, I guess.
good stuff,
But
man,
yeah,
good stuff.
Tank Girl is really, really cool. But in the same, not even the same vein, but something that's also being put out um uh, by
Umbrella,
Umbrella. That actually Tank Girl was already put out by Shout Factory a few years ago, and I think that Blu-ray has gone out of print. Uh, Another movie that was also put out by another company from a few years ago is Coffy, starring
mm,
Pam Grier. Coffy was put out originally, I think, by Olive Films in like 2013 or so. but it's getting a new release here, and the release that's coming out from Umbrella has actually quite a few extra features, and I think the Olive Films one just did not have anything, unfortunately. So the movie Coffee, starring Pam Grier, came out in 1973, and it's one of those black exploitation kick-ass movies from the 70s, starring, in my opinion, an icon from that era, and probably an all-time icon in Pam Grier. And she is basically a vigilante in this movie. She is someone who is a nurse who takes it upon herself to hunt down like drug dealers because her sister overdosed on drugs. So she's trying to like hunt down the people who are responsible for it, and it's her going undercover and like against like drug dealers and pimps, and she's like killing them. It's
Yeah.
like she's a badass in this. It's the movie's awesome. I had never seen it, and I remember when that Olive Films Blu-ray came out, and I wanted to get it, and I just never did. There's a lot of those black exploitation films from the 70s that have come out on Blu-ray that I haven't got my hands on. I mean, the major one I was fortunate to get was put out by Criterion, Shaft. Shaft. I ended up getting that because that was just a cool ass edition that they put out. But Coffee, this one is also really, really cool. If you dig Pam Grier, if you dig that era of just black exploitation and 70s grit and things like that, think like Black Dynamite, think
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Foxy Brown.
Rudy Ray Moore stuff.
Yeah, Rudy Ray Moore stuff. This is a pretty cool release. It is getting like a super deluxe,
Yeah.
collector's edition as well with a 48-page book. Getting classic art outer rigid slipcase, classic poster art, 8 replica lobby cards, reversible poster. It's a limited number edition, and for special features, I think there's an audio commentary from the director Jack Hill. And there's an interview with Pam Grier. It's called "The Baddest Chick in Town." Interview with Pam Grier on Coffee and its follow-up, Foxy Brown. Um, Very cool. And there's even an hour-long documentary on here. That's called "Badass Cinema." Awesome. So
So,
yeah, this when I
presented
saw
to you
this,
by Quentin Tarantino.
I might as well be. He loves
Yeah.
that era. I mean,
Well, yeah, his
if you've
whole
seen Jackie Brown,
Jackie Brown's,
that's
that's
his black exploitation
well, Pam
homage,
Grier's in it. Pam Grier's
and
in it
Pam
too.
Grier's in it
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, that's Coffee. That's awesome. What do you want to move to next, Steven?
I'd love a pot of coffee right now. Damn middle of that. But all right, so I mean, how about we go over to I don't know where you want to go. I'm the one that brought up Umbrella.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm the one that, how about you
Let's
tell
go
me where to go?
Shout. Let's go to Shout Studios because there's
Okay.
just a couple here that I want to go over. So Shout did have their what is it? April releases. Yes,
Yeah.
they're April releases. And there's a few here that are getting some upgrades, and there's a few here that are getting some releases for the first time, but I wanted to focus on just a couple here. One is the movie Rolling Thunder is getting a 4K UHD release. And I think they had put out the Blu-ray a couple of years ago, and Rolling
Yes.
Thunder is a movie starring William Devane. William Devane is such like an underrated 70s actor. They were trying to make him like a much bigger star than I think he ever became. But yeah, this movie stars John Flynn, and the reason why I want to watch it for so long is because it is or co-written by Paul Schrader. So William Devane plays Major Charles Rain, who comes back from war and is given a hero's welcome. He's a prisoner of war in, I believe, Vietnam for a number of years, and they welcome him home with like, a whole parade and everything. But what ends up happening is people end up like ransack not ran they break into his house to steal these like silver coins that he was given at this ceremony, because they're worth so much. But these people not only steal these silver coins, but they also murder his son and his wife, and they think they murder him too, but they don't quite finish the job, Stephen. So of course he's got to get his revenge.
Big mistake.
Big mistake. Basically, he goes on this Liam Neeson, Death Wish type of revenge
Yeah.
tour where he's hunting these people down in like small Mexican towns on the border, and he's got to get his revenge. And yeah, it's a dark, like gritty 70s film that's like I said, in the vein of the Death Wish, in the vein of something like that. And yeah, Tommy Lee Jones is in the film as well. He's one of the guys who comes back with him from Vietnam, who was also a POW. Um, yeah, it's a I dug it. I thought it was really,
It's
really
solid. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have the
solid.
Blu. I have the Blu-ray.
Oh, cool.
Um,
So you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, it's like you said, it's on the level of Death Wish. It's got that it's got that kind of pulpiness to it of that time, and yeah, it's a good watch. It's a good watch. But
I do have another one here that's also a connection to
yes,
Paul Schrader, a direct connection, and
well,
that
yeah,
is his 1997 film Affliction, which was written and directed by him. There's been a lot of Paul Schrader that's come out over the last several years. You've got Blue Collar, which has gotten a release from both Indicator as well as Kino. You've got, of course, Mishima Life in Four Chapters, which I think got a Blu-ray release, and no, did it get a 4K release from Criterion?
I don't
Not
think
sure
it's
yet.
come out for in 4K yet.
No, but it did get a DVD to Blu-ray upgrade a few years ago.
Yeah,
But you've also gotten the movie he did with George C. Scott, which I've seen and now completely blanking on. Hardcore.
yeah.
Hardcore did get a release from Indicator, got a release from Kino. That's a yeah, we're talking about dark film. Dark film. But this film is also dark. Yeah, Paul Schrader loves writing these deeply complex, like internally destructive, turmoil filled men characters.
Yeah.
He did write Taxi Driver, so he's kind of playing off of Taxi Driver a lot in a lot of his
Just
movies,
won't
even
let
up
it
till
go.
now.
He won't
Yeah,
let it go.
even up till now, his characters are like that in his recent films. Master Gardener,
Yeah.
which was his most recent film with Joel Edgerton, is something similar to that. But this film is so here's the premise: an irresolute and deeply troubled small town cop becomes obsessed with investigating a suspicious hunting death. That's kind of the premise of the movie, but it's more about Nick Nolte's character's kind of struggle with himself and struggle specifically with the relationship within his family. He's got a very tumultuous family. His father in the film is portrayed amazingly by the great James Coburn. I mean, and I
Mm.
believe one of his last roles, maybe his last role, I believe he was nominated for an Oscar for the film. Just the most crotchety and cranky, cantankerous old man characters you'll ever see in a movie is James
More
Coburn.
than Nick Nolte?
He's like, well, he plays Nick Nolte's father, so it's like Nick Nolte's that type of character, but
Nick
like
Nolte
dialed
versus
up
Nick
to 11.
Nolte.
Yeah,
God.
it really is. Perfect casting, really.
Jeez.
And the movie is just really well acted, really good. I've always been a big fan of it. What I'm so excited about this release is it's finally getting a Blu-ray release. It's been just stuck in DVD level land for the last forever. I've always saw the DVD in stores, and I'm like, I want this movie, but I know as soon as I get it, there's gonna be a Blu-ray release, and finally, somebody's putting it out. It's coming out in April, and I really can't wait to get it. Um, it's just gonna be yeah, a nice, addition to my collection. I'm so excited about it. And then the last thing here is not quite on the slate yet, but it's more rumor that it's supposed to come out in April. At least I thought it was going to come out in April, and that is the 4K UHD upgrade of Robert Rodriguez's The Faculty, which
Yes.
I want this now.
I
Like, give
want
it to
it.
me now,
Yeah.
please.
I have it
Um,
on a fucking damn triple feature fucking DVD over here, guys.
really,
Yeah,
it,
I have it on some stupid
it must be like a Miramax triple feature.
yeah, yeah.
It's gotta be
It's
a
one of them
Miramax triple
stupid ones
feature.
sharing like
Or
with
Dimension. Yeah, because I think Dimension was like the horror. the horror wing of Miramax at one point. Anywho, that's a
Yeah.
whole different story for a
Well,
different
it's
time.
sharing disk space with other fucking movies
Yeah,
now,
which
aren't
it
they?
shouldn't. It
Yeah.
shouldn't. So
Yeah.
the Blu-ray originally came out in 2013, and it's been re-released a couple of times. And it was put out by Echo Bridge, which for those of you long-time collectors know that Echo Bridge was just a really bad company that got a bunch of Miramax stuff back in the day and just put them out on Blu-ray in not great condition. Not great condition. I've had it in my collection forever, so this would be an amazing upgrade in every way. And I think it's about time. I mean, the movie came out like this would be last year would have been the 25th anniversary of when the movie came out. So they missed the boat by about a year, but I don't care. Just give me the 4K UHD release.
Fucking
Um,
get it out, man. It's good.
just get it out. I don't even remember if it had anything in the way of special features. No, it had nothing. Yeah, Echo Bridge was kind of the Mill Creek of its time, but maybe even like on that level. And if you know what Mill Creek is, you know what I mean. But even then, Mill Creek at least was better than them, in my opinion. At least they're still around. Echo Bridge is long gone,
Yeah.
long gone. But that's it for me for Scream Factory. Steven,
Well,
you
hey,
got
no,
anything
I
else
was
to
gonna
add?
say the faculty. What's so great about that movie is it's got a Dawson's Creek connection.
K-
Um,
um,
Kevin Williamson, man, he's a
yes.
writer. He's a writer, man.
For some reason, I thought Katie Holmes was in the movie, but it's not. She's not.
No, no,
No,
no.
talk about a
It's
cast.
I
Talk
mean,
about a
dude, the
cast.
cast is amazing. With like Jordana Brewster, Josh Hartnett, Selma Hayek. I mean, damn. I mean,
Yeah,
Robert Patrick.
Elijah Wood's in the film.
Yeah,
Jon Stewart, before he was in the host of the Daily Show,
yeah.
he plays a teacher in that movie.
And this is that it feels like a fucking 90s, you
Yeah,
know.
it's such a quintessential, I think, 90s
Yeah.
teenage horror film with all of like the young up and comers of the time. There's always been those types of movies where you just the young up and comers like are all in this one movie together. And a lot of them came out in the 90s. Really, you've
Yeah.
had this and then Can't Hardly Wait, I think was another film that's like
Uh,
super underrated.
Clueless.
Clueless is another one.
It's got a pretty good amount of people in it.
And for an extent, American Pie, a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
those actors kind of went on to do other things. I mean, Sean William Scott, Jason Biggs, definitely bigger ones.
Here's a
Allison
dark
Hannigan, of course.
here's a darker example. The movie Sleepers.
Oh,
Kevin Bacon,
interesting.
Brad Pitt, fucking just tons of big actors in that. I think Joe Pesci's in that movie too. Maybe I don't know, but it's got a lot of big actors in it. Let me
Yeah,
look it
and
up.
the 80s also had that as well. I mean, obviously the John Hughes films, even a movie like Diner, which is
Yeah,
another film that had a lot of young actors in it that would go on to be in bigger
yeah.
things.
The movie
Um,
Sleepers. Robert De Niro, Kevin Bacon, Brad Pitt, Jason Patrick, Billy Crudup, uh, uh, just many drivers in it. Dustin Hoffman's in it. Beat that shit. Beat that
all
movie.
right then.
I'm just kidding. I'm
I
getting
do
all
like Minnie
upset.
Driver.
Yeah, Mini Driver's
I
cool.
I have
Goodwill Hunting is
an affinity for obviously for Good Will Hunting, but Gross Point Blank,
yeah.
I think is a movie that is fantastic. I would love a remastered Blu-ray even. I mean, 4K UHD would be amazing, but for Gross Point Blank, just to get a nice remaster or something, I would love that. I know it's in the hands of Disney Buena Vista, so I don't see that happening anytime soon. So, wishful thinking, in my opinion. But if one of these boutique
Mm.
labels could get hands on Gross Point Blank, I
Hey,
would absolutely love
they
that.
got Straight Story.
That is true. They did get Straight Story. That's a Disney film.
Always remember that they got Straight Story.
I also feel like there's several as 2 Robin Williams films that come to mind that I think need to get out of that Disney Buena Vista area, and that would be, Dead Poets Society and Good Morning Vietnam.
Flubber.
Uh, Flubber,
Sorry.
of course.
Yeah,
I
no,
think I saw that
I
movie
love
in
both
theater.
of them films. Dead Poets Society's a classic. Oh, Captain, My Captain, and
Obviously.
and
Good Morning Vietnam. I mean, though they both have Blu-ray releases, but those Blu-rays came out
yeah,
a
they're
long
old.
time ago.
Yeah,
Um, so I feel like I'm really surprised since Robin has passed away and all those things. If anybody wants to take advantage of making money, it's Disney. I mean, jeez, jeez.
but I
Um,
mean, for them to how can they market them movies? They're not.
right,
That for
right.
them as as Disney. I mean, like it
They'll
doesn't. That
they'll
doesn't.
find some way, some like anniversary or something. Like last year, Warner Bros. Had their 100th anniversary, so they re-put out all their movies
Yeah.
and new
Well,
editions and stuff.
little off topic, but not really. Robin Williams' daughter's got a new movie coming out this week.
Oh,
I believe her name's Lisa Williams, or I could be wrong, but his daughter has got a new movie coming out called Lisa Frankenstein. I'm saying Lisa because of the name of the movie. Lisa
ah,
Frankenstein is the movie, and it's Robin Williams' daughter, her directorial debut.
oh yeah, Zelda Williams.
Yeah, Zelda
Yeah,
Williams.
it's written by Diablo Cody.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
know a lot of people don't like Diablo Cody, and I always thought
Did
she was
Juno, right?
yeah, she did Juno, Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
Um, what was that other film that she did? I have to look it up now.
Well, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Young Adult, and
That's
Tully
pretty
were the
good.
other 2 films.
I like young adult. Jason Reitman, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think Tully was also Jason Reitman as well.
Okay.
Hmm,
Yeah.
looks actually, but yeah, Zelda Williams. Um,
Did you
yeah,
see the
Zelda
trailer?
Williams.
Did you watch the trailer for that? It looks
I did
pretty
not.
fun.
I didn't know about it
Dude,
until
it looks like a 90s
maybe I
throwback.
did.
Looks
I
like a
don't know. I watch
90s
so much
throwback.
stuff. Like sometimes I'll just be scrolling and just watch something, move on to the next thing, watch something like a robot sometimes.
That's what the phone does to you, buddy. You
Yeah,
got
that's
to
what
put
it
it down.
does.
You got to
That's what
put
it
that
does.
phone down, man.
Yeah,
But yeah, Faculty, great
awesome.
cast. Robert Rodriguez. It's one of his underrated, not underrated, but it's the one that people forget he did. It's like people remember he did Spy Kids before he did Faculty.
Yeah, when it comes to Robert Rodriguez, everybody his '90s work, I think people just say
Desperado.
Desperado. Even
You
though
know,
he did like El Mariachi, there's this movie called Road Racers that no one talks about,
I
and I
don't even
feel
know that
and
one.
I own the movie Road Racers. It's got a
Yeah.
Blu-ray release,
Yeah.
and it was a movie he did for Showtime with Salma Hayek, and it was the first time he worked with Salma Hayek, and may have been her first like English language movie. Like
Yeah.
it was, I think, it came out in, like '94 or something like that. And yeah, it's called Road Racers. People look it up if you haven't.
Hey, and there was a third movie in that Desperado series, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Remember that?
Yeah,
Johnny
yeah,
Depp's in it.
2001 that came out. That
Yeah,
movie is
Johnny
pretty
Depp's
awesome.
in it.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie? I remember when it came out, it's
I
awesome.
owned the movie for a while, and I think I tossed it because I was like, I don't need this.
Oh, Steven,
I
stabbed me right in the heart, I guess.
sorry.
It's
I
good,
might
it's very, very, very good.
I like it fine. I mean, it's just not as good as Desperado. But all right, well, let's move on.
Let's move on.
Let's see. How about we talk about some Vinegar Syndrome? Is that?
Oh, you want to go there already?
I mean, does it matter?
No, I guess not. So, Vinegar Syndrome had their usual, first day of the year,
Yeah.
just drop of titles, just completely dumping it right on our heads. And we have some interesting things to talk about. We got I think there were like 16 partner label titles and at least what,
Well,
5
we're
or 6.
talking about 16 partner labor titles, but we're going to talk about some of them.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some, but they also do their proper release, and they did
Yeah.
a release of 6, but there's only about 2 of these that I really want to focus on.
Yes.
One is a 4K UHD release of Phase 4, the
Mm,
film, the only feature film to be directed by Saul Bass, the
yes.
great Saul Bass.
The guy that did the credits
Yeah, he did the credits
for
on a
many of
bunch of movies,
films. Yeah.
a couple of Hitchcock films and a bunch of other classic films, but
Oh,
Saul Bass mostly known for that. He did direct a few short films in his career, but his only feature film was this movie called Phase 4. Steven, have you seen it?
yes. Yeah, I've seen it. Love this movie.
Really?
It's really awesome. I
Okay.
mean, is it a 5-star movie? No, but it's a cool movie. And what I love is it's like it's taken so seriously. That's what I love about it. It's
If you
it's like
go on Letterboxd, there are a lot of fans of this movie.
yeah, it's like watching I'm not saying it's this surreal, but like it's like Solaris. It's that hard sci-fi, like it takes it super seriously. But if you don't know what this movie's about, some anomaly, the planets line up, it causes some effect to planet Earth. Nobody really knows what it is. And then, there's a narration through a lot of this beginning of this film, and it kind of takes you to what changed. Nobody knew what happened. And then it's like the smallest creatures, and then it's fucking ants. Like apparently this planet aligning thing that caused this effect on the Earth. It only affected the ants, and now the ants are like more intelligent,
Yeah,
and they're
they're
like,
communicating with one another, they're intelligent, they're doing things, and with that premise, you think this is going to be like a schlocky sci-fi,
yeah,
like a throwback to maybe an atomic age sci-fi, creature feature type of movie like Them,
yeah,
something like that with giant ants roaming around, and it's not.
no,
This is like THX 1138 of terms of like serious sci-fi,
yeah,
like futuristic type stuff. And it takes it as serious as a medical emergency. It takes it
yeah,
dead
yeah.
serious, and if anything, it's ahead of its time. I think in doing that. Um,
Solaris.
I know Solaris, what a movie. I still need to watch the Steven Soderbergh version of that. Um, but I've
That's the
seen the
first. That's the first
Tarkovsky.
one. That's the first one I saw. Was that one?
Really?
George
I
Clooney.
have
Yeah.
that's a movie that needs a Blu-ray release, mind you. I have the DVD. I bought it, at a used DVD store many years ago. It's just sitting there in my never-ending Soderbergh section. Um, but this movie is, just like you said, Steven, like, super serious, takes it straight up, and it's about these 2 scientists that are kind of performing these experiments in the desert, like communicating with them, trying to figure out the communication, experimenting to see what's going on with these ants. At one point, some like random woman kind of she gets like stranded with them because there are people also living in the desert, and the ants kind of wipe them out, but she
Yeah.
survives. Um, and it's them just trying to survive against these super intelligent ants. And the ending is rather obscure.
Yeah.
It's very, like you said, like hard sci-fi,
Yeah.
which was not what I was expecting, but I thought really, really interesting take on this whole thing. And this edition here is pretty loaded
This
with
is what's excited me
things.
about this. I went ahead and pre-ordered this because
Oh,
I was like, yeah, this disc, it's got some good stuff on here. It's got, I believe, a documentary, a 84-minute, or
well, it's got two
I'm sorry.
versions of the movie.
Well, the two versions of the movie. I was reading the wrong thing, but I believe it does have a documentary on here. 48-minute, the making of Phase 4. 48 minutes, brand new documentary with Elijah Drimmer.
Yes, a brand new
Yeah,
documentary by Elijah Drenner featuring interviews with Jeffrey Bass, co-star Michael Murphy, screenwriter Mayo Simon, archivist oh, Sean Savage, that's an alliteration, design historian Saul Bass, biographer Pat Kirkham. But yeah, two cuts of the movie, 84-minute theatrical version, is available on both the UHD and Blu-ray disc, and then 89-minute preview version with multiple soundtrack options is included on a Blu-ray disc. Now, this is a 3-disc edition as well, which is pretty cool. Now, this did come out once upon a time, many, many moons ago. This came out. I think this may have been, by many moons ago, I mean 2015. Olive Films put this out. And I believe that disc didn't have anything. So this is gonna be a massive
yeah.
upgrade in picture and sound
Oh
and
yeah,
special features.
yeah.
Um,
Montag 451 says Phase 4 is 1975 super goodness, almost minimalist at times, a fave of mine. I have to say I agree. It is minimalist, and it's just it's really fun. I used to grow when I was growing up. I used to watch a lot of films like this, and there was one, and I can't. It's one of, how like sometimes you think about a movie you saw when you were a kid, but you can't quite think of what it was. You just keep remembering like certain scenes and images. You're like, what was that? Has that ever happened to you?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And there's a movie when I was growing up. I think it was a TV movie, and it was an ant attack movie. Now I don't remember what it was. Like I don't remember what the name of the movie was, but it's an ant attack movie. And at first I was like, "Is this that ant attack movie I watched when I was a kid?" And it's not. It's not the same thing. It's that movie was a lot more schlockier than this is. This is definitely what, and Saul Bass wish he had made more movies because this
Yeah.
is really well made, really well thought out.
Yeah,
Um,
what's really cool about it is the visuals.
yeah, yeah.
When you see the ants, like, it's like close-ups of, like, actual ants doing things.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Like,
it's like not. They don't look fake.
they
They're real
look fake. If
ants.
they are fake, if they are animatronic, if it is some type of rudimentary CGI done in the '70s, you really can't tell too
I
much.
I think they're just really close up like
This
it's
yeah,
real
this isn't
ants.
like 1950s, like, people in giant ant costumes and then, like, with miniature sets, like,
No.
running around. It's not like that at all, which makes it that much more impressive that he was able to pull that off. I know that there's also an alternate ending that's been floating around for this movie for years. I think that's included on here as well. Um, yeah, this is just fascinating. Super, super glad this is coming out. I had heard at least a month or 2 ago that this was coming.
Yeah,
I
oh,
just
well,
didn't
yeah.
know when it was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was announced with their crop of, like, the tease for this year.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big tease, and this was already a part of that tease, so,
Yeah,
um
so there's that, which I think is gonna be the big one for this release cycle.
yeah, I believe so too.
There is still over 1,000 copies, and I think they made 8,000 copies, so
Yeah,
it
it'll
should be
it'll
sticking
be
around for a little bit, hopefully.
yeah.
But you never know. That Existence release did end up selling out in, like, 5 or 6 weeks, so that just goes to show you. But what else I want to focus on here when it comes to the Vinegar slate specifically is their new Vinegar Syndrome Labs release,
Mm.
and this is something right up my alley. It is a western. A 5 card stud is the name of the movie. It is a movie directed by Henry Hathaway, and it is a movie that, like I said, is a western, and it is um yeah, it's good. I think it's a solid western. It stars Dean Martin and Robert Mitchum, Inger Stevens, Roddy McDowall, Yaphet Kotto is in the film as well. Um, it's so what ends up happening is at the very, very beginning of this movie, someone is accused of cheating at a card game, and instead of kind of just kicking this man out of the saloon and running him out of town, they decide to kill him instead.
Mm.
But what ends up happening is that as this movie goes along, everyone that was at that poker game or involved in that lynching essentially starts dying one by one. So who is doing the killing? What is happening? Um, you know, what are the circumstances around it? And Dean Martin's character kind of gets wrapped up in this. Um, uh, Robert Mitchum is playing a preacher that kind of shows up and comes to town. Is he connected to this in any way? Robert Mitchum as a preacher once again after um, the movie that I can't remember. Why am I?
Come on,
Um,
do it, man. You can do it.
uh, Night of the Hunter.
Yeah, yeah, I knew you could do
Yeah,
it.
I got it. Thank you. So
I was willing you in my head. I was like, "He's
he's
gonna get
not
it."
quite that level of devious vitriol evil, but he is not. He's a preacher with a gun. He's a preacher with a gun, which it tells you a little conflict of interest there. Yeah,
More like the
so
shit like the Preacher comic book, the show.
kind of, yeah. I mean, kind of.
Not really.
Not really supernatural in any way, but you know what I mean. But just
There's no
the
supernatural twist. There's no
conflict of
super
interest going on.
there's no supernatural twist in this movie?
No, there isn't.
Ah,
I
damn.
could definitely say that, and that maybe that's a spoiler for some, but I can tell you that it's
I was
definitely
hoping there would be
not
some kind of
happening.
ghost involved or something.
But yeah, there's a lot of things happening in terms of, relationships and like I said, murders happening in mysterious ways. You don't really know who the killer is until of course, the very end when things get revealed and all that kind of stuff. But I will buy and, watch any movie with Robert Mitchum in it. So this was something that I had to immediately gravitate towards. And Stephen and I were talking about it, this Vinegar Syndrome Labs sub label is kind of like, yeah, anything goes in here,
It's the
you know?
experiment. It's the experiment
It is a
label.
lab, so you gotta experiment in a lab. You gotta throw
Yeah.
some chemicals
Whatever
together.
whatever they don't think is gonna fit something else is going in here.
Whatever you cook
Yeah.
up is in there,
You
we
know
got it.
like the scene in Willy Wonka and the in Chocolate Factory, he's like going through some of the creations he's got, and he like throws shoes and like a blanket inside of the pot to make something. It's like that, he's just like whatever it is. So and then if you're not watching, Andrew's on his phone during the podcast.
Well, I got
So
well,
he's good.
I'm multitasking all the time, Stephen.
Yeah,
If you wonder how I'm always, getting so much phone usage, multitasking is the name of the
sure,
game.
sure.
It's the name of the game. That's how I get things working. My mind is just, like, going down, like, a million different avenues all at once. Um,
I don't know how he does it.
for some reason, I have the YouTube website up on here twice, and I don't need to have it up here on here twice.
Cool.
So that
You
that
should
just
try.
shows you where my mind is at on a Monday evening. Uh, but yeah, as we're saying, the labs is a bit of everything. You know, we've got the Peter Zulkin quadrilogy or whatever was in
Yeah,
there. The
with the Russian
Yeah, the Polish films.
or Polish.
You've
Yeah,
got um classic Hollywood stuff in
yeah,
there. You've got westerns in there. It just is a bunch of things just thrown in there in a mix, and I kind of like it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and this is definitely something I got my eyes on. It's directed by Henry Hathaway, and for me, Henry Hathaway was always that director who was making he was making the type of westerns that were beyond their time when they were coming out. He was still the one making John Wayne westerns after, we had spaghetti westerns, after we had
These are gonna be
Wild
popular
Bunch.
again one day.
Yeah, and it's like he was always kind of holding on to that old Western stuff, and there was still an audience for it, obviously. And he was kind of fulfilling that for that audience in the 60s and 70s. Of course, he had directed much earlier than that, but I think one of the films that is one of his best would be The True Grit from 1969, which, of course, starring John Wayne. It got John Wayne his, I think, only Oscar he ever got. He directed The Sons of Katie Elder. He was one of the directors in How the West Was Won. Um, yeah, he was directing Nevada Smith, just a like bunch of westerns that were kind of westerns of past their prime or past their. I think the genre had kind of passed them by, but he was still making them. He was still
Yeah.
making them, and they were not bad. They are not bad films in my opinion. The ones that, at least the ones I've seen. That's five card stud. But let's move over to the partner label stuff.
All right.
Because that's usually where we get the bulk of the most interesting things, really. A lot of cool stuff from a lot of the same people that we've been following now pretty much throughout the duration of this podcast. Steven, anything here that really caught your eyeballs?
Well, the Canadian International Pictures release because it's the last film I believe that needed to be released in this kind of like this unconventional trilogy by filmmaker Denny's Arcand.
Yeah,
I believe
Dennis
that's
Arcand. That's what I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, and the first were Gina, which I love. I love that film Gina, and then also did the film Dirty Money,
Mm,
and then this is
yeah.
supposed to be the third film in the series. I don't know if it's which order. I guess whichever release order. Um, but say this to was it Rejeanne
I think it's
Padovani?
yeah, Rejeanne Padovani? Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right. What is interesting is in looking for this movie online to try to watch, it is available in its entirety on YouTube, in probably the wrong aspect ratio, but entirely in French with no English subtitles. So if you speak French fluently, you can
There you
watch
go.
it on YouTube right now.
Go for it.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do that, even though I wanted to. But yeah, this is going to be, I'm assuming, another film in that same vein
Yes.
as Gina, as Dirty Money. Um, two films which I really really love from our guys over at Canadian International Pictures. Um, yeah, so it's Montreal mafioso Vincent Padovani has spent years building a diversified crime empire fronted by legitimate
Hmm.
business interests and sustained through illicit political connections, having secured a much publicized government contract for his thriving construction company. Vincent is throwing an opulent private dinner to thank his many co-conspirators, including the mayor of Montreal and a host of other highly placed pawnbrokers. But when the evening is thrown wildly off course by press at the door, a looming construction protest, and the sudden reappearance of Padovani's estranged wife Regine. The mob enforcers and corrupt cops that serve Vincent are called into action for a long and bloody night's work. Oh goodness. But yes, it sounds like Montreal organized crime drama
Well, I
going
can
on
tell you
here.
this. I watched it.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me. Hey now,
Hmm.
so is it as good as I believe it to be?
It is good.
Okay.
But it is the one thing you have to, and I don't. This isn't going to bother you. I know you'll enjoy this. But it is one of the movies that it's like contained in one place the whole movie. Like it's in his house, um, and they're having a dinner. They're having a dinner celebrating the new construction of this highway, and then as it says in the description, his wife shows up. There's these or his ex-wife shows up, and these protesters are showing up, and they need this taken care of. They don't want to spoil.
Mm,
This doesn't need to be spoiled. And whatever his ex-wife wants, he doesn't want to. He doesn't care. Like, so it shows. You get an idea not only of like how the power works between all these different people that are involved, the cops, the, you know, you could say hitmen that are kind of hanging around. There's these different. There's a little bit of a class structure, not only structure of power, but class structure in the house with the wait staff, the people that are there serving drinks, stuff like it. So it's not only a film about this kind of criminal, thing, this crime that's going on, but like it's about class, structure, and like, so it's got a lot to say. It is a really it's a movie. It's a lot of people talking. So
mm,
it's that type of movie. Not it says like bloody night and everything, make it seem like it's a little bit more like big and entertaining. It's not. It's a lot of talking. There is a couple scenes of like kind of action, but like it's not that type of movie. It is a talky movie. So if that's something you're into and you really want to get into character study, really character heavy character stuff, this will be a good movie for you. And I mean, like out of the three movies, this is probably like artistically the best one, but like I still love Gina maybe the best. I think Gina is probably my favorite of the three. But yeah, it's a definite recommend. It's good. So
awesome, awesome. Um, yeah, I can't wait to see it, and it is still, um, yes, there's still about 423
you better get on
of the
that.
limited edition left in stock.
Gotta get on
So
that.
if you want to get on it soon, because uh, those tend to sell out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of the films in the series are still got the limited editions, but they're pretty
I think
low.
Gina's been long
Is
sold
is
out.
Gina sold out? Okay.
Yeah, let
Well,
me
I
go
know
take a
Dirty
look right
Money
now.
isn't because I just bought
Oh,
it recently.
okay.
Um,
Let's see.
because
I'm
I needed to
looking.
get. I'd already had Gina, but I needed to get
Oh,
Dirty Money, and now when I had pre-ordered this as well.
yeah, Dirty Money. There's still plenty. Gina is down to. There's plenty of the standard editions left.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. But moving back to some other another partner label. I did want to talk a little bit about. I'm going to talk about this right here because this was a label that um, we talked about some stuff before, but I thought this movie's worth talking about. It's called Nightsiren, and Night
Okay.
Siren is put out by Dark Star Films. Um, it's a newer film. It came out in 2022. It's a really just fascinating film. This is a movie that if you're into folk horror, this will be right up your alley. If you like folk horror, like something like The Witch or the folk horror box set, All the Haunts Be Ours box set that was put out by Severin a couple of years ago, which I still think is one of the best releases of the last several years by anybody. Um,
That's hard to beat that shit.
that's hard to beat that set. It really is. It's a damn. I don't think anybody's really beat it since.
I still like, if I could just get myself motivated enough, I've wanted to do a
A deep dive
video,
into it.
like a deep
Yeah.
dive video into that damn set. We're going
Yeah.
to. I'm eventually
Yeah,
gonna do it.
I mean, such a complex set ranging from all across the world,
Yeah.
but this film, Night Siren, would honestly fit right in that set. If they made a
Yeah.
part 2 of that set, I think Night Siren would be in it. So this takes place entirely in a remote mountain village. I'm trying to figure out which country this movie comes from. Um, I wanna say Germany, but don't quote me on that. Um, it's kind of it feels Scandinavian, and it's a movie dealing with um dealing with witchcraft. Okay, so let's see. It was filmed in Slovakia.
Mm,
The language is Slovak. Okay, so Slovakia. So the movie is a young woman returns to her native mountain village searching for answers about her troubled childhood, but as she tries to uncover the truth, ancient superstitions lead the villagers to accuse her of witchcraft and murder. That is a loose uh synopsis of the film. The movie is way more about like past trauma and things like that. And yeah, this young woman returns, and you just see like flashbacks to her to a traumatic event that happened in her childhood, her running away from home, what the circumstances were behind that, what happened in the aftermath of that, pieces that she's trying to put together to, figure out what happened and what happened to her and what happened to this place in general. And man, Steven, you got these remote small towns in the middle of the woods. Stay away from them. Stay away from them. Once things start happening, you got to get out of there. You just got to get
I
out of
agree.
there.
I agree, man.
Things start happening in the middle of the night, spookiness happens, weird paganistic, witchcrafty type things are going on. I got to get out of town. I got to get out of there. So yeah, this movie has some surreal moments, trippy moments, horror moments when you're dealing with witchcraft. You're getting all of those elements, and yeah, it's a really, I think, solid drama. The ending of the film, I won't give it away, but I'm still battling with like what happened? What does this mean? What am I how do I interpret this? Um, those are in here as well. Really cool mood piece, a slow film as well. But I think ultimately it's for a certain type of horror fan. If you like I said, if you like The Witch, if you like the movies of Ari Aster, I think you'll be on this wavelength. Midsommarish vibes as well in here. Not quite as cultish as that, but you know what I'm saying. Like just constant sense of weird dread going on.
Yeah.
So I really like the movie Nightsiren. It is available to rent on Amazon for like $3. That's where I watched it. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's from Darkstar. But moving on from there, Steven, is there any one of these other ones that you were looking at?
One of the other ones I took a look at was Where the Devil Roams. That's a new film, came out this year actually, making its way, or last year, sorry, last year it came out, and it's a film about traces of a family of murder. Traces a family of murderous sideshow performers as they travel around the world on dying carnival circuit. Yeah, this
Did you see the
movie,
movie? Did you
yes,
see it?
yeah,
Okay.
it's
It's actually it's a Tubi original film.
it is, yeah. I saw that. I was like, wow, Tubi, way to go.
They got the money.
Um, um, it's okay.
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's okay. It's a lot of
I understand what you mean.
it's a lot of
I wrestled with
style.
this movie.
It's a lot of style. Very atmospheric. That's its pluses, but it's a little bit like artsy fartsy, trying to be like, like trying to be have substance.
I like that about it.
Really?
That's just my tendency, as I like the kind of the artsy, the avant-gardeness. It to me, it felt like I was watching an R-rated, art house version of American Horror Story at times. You know
No,
what I
I
mean?
see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mixed with like at times it's like also trying to be like a Rob Zombie film, but
No, I could see
Rob
that, but it's like,
Zombie.
so you're saying they're trying to be artsy, like in a
But not quite
satirical way?
achieve yeah, but not quite achieving what they're going for, but I kind of appreciated the attempt at what they were going for,
Okay.
and you know what I mean? And I just felt like I just wish that there was more there to the movie.
Well, that's what I'm
I
trying
feel
to say.
like
That's
there's a
what I'm
lot
trying to
more
say.
style over substance, and I
Well,
feel like
that's
there
what
could have been more.
you're saying exactly my opinion, but you
Ah,
like it more than me, apparently.
yeah. Like, for me, the movie was like I mean, if you wanna put it in letterbox terms, it was teetering between a 3 and 3.5, you know what I mean? It was like some parts of it, I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's really, really good." Then other parts, I'm like, "Oh, this is kinda where we're going. This is just
Yeah.
kind of basic," So it just kind of stays in that middle ground for me. Um, it also reminded me of that remember that Tom Hardy show, Taboo?
Yeah. Yeah.
It reminded me of that as well, just the palette of it all. It's super muted palette. It takes place in, I believe, like, not in the 1930s, because it's supposed to be during the Depression era. So you've got all of that garb of that time, the clothing, the style, the technology of that time. A little I thought it was gonna be more supernatural in it, and there is a supernatural vibe, but they don't lean into it, enough until later on in the film, which I think was the most interesting parts.
Alright.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I like the title though, "Where the Devil Roams." It's
yeah, I
pretty
like the
cool.
title too.
Pretty
That's
cool
why
ass
I
title.
watched it. I watched it because of the title.
Nice, nice. And I believe it's directed by Zelda Adams, John Adams, and Toby Poser. And I think they do these types of movies. Like
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that
they're all
people
doing
on
horror movies.
Letterboxd were like were felt like they were aware of their work.
Yeah.
To me, this was the first time I had seen it. So moving on
Yeah.
from there, I do want to talk about I'll talk about this. Totally Wired, 3 films by Nathan Silver. Just because this is a unique 3 film set. I was able to watch 2 out of 3 of these films. So the 3 films in this set are Exit Alina, Soft in the Head, Stinking Heaven. I was able to watch Exit Alina and Stinking Heaven because they were both available on Canopy. They were both streaming on Canopy while the second film was not, and the second film wasn't really streaming anywhere, actually, unfortunately. So I did a quick research on who Nathan Silver was and what his work, entailed. And apparently between like 2012 and 2019, he put out a movie like consecutive years. He actually has a movie right now that just showed at Sundance last month, starring Jason Schwartzman and Carol Kane. They were at Sundance promoting it, and
Cool.
I was and interesting is at the time I was like, oh, that's Jason Schwartzman and Carol Kane on the red carpet at Sundance. I know these people. Didn't know what movie they were in. Didn't know who the director was or anything like that. But I believe that was the movie. That was a movie that they were promoting. But these 3 films here are films from early on in his career. What bothers me about this set is just my OCD as a collector. It really is. So it's got it skips over, I said it has consecutive movies. It skips over one of them and goes to the next one. So it's like it's got like Exit Elena and Soft in the Head came out consecutive years. Then it skips over the next one in the order of this guy's filmography and moves on to the following year. That bothered me, but that's just OCD collecting stuff for me. But these
Yeah.
films are interesting. They're super indie, like as low budget as you could possibly get. They're kind of mumblecore ish. They look like I was watching. I'm like, these look like home movies. Like these
Yeah.
look like documentaries. I'm like, are these real actors? That's how low budget this is. I felt like I was just watching somebody holding a camera in somebody's house and recording it. You know what I mean? Like we're doing
Yeah.
here. Like I felt like that level of budget and that level of types of films. But the films that are in it are kind of jumbled. I mean this with like all respect and like actual interest, kind of jumbled messes of interesting ideas. Like Exit Elena is a movie about a woman who is she's a live-in aid for somebody who needs medical care all the time, like an elderly person who can no longer take care of themselves. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's what she does. You see her doing that in the movie. You see her living in these people's houses. You see her interacting with them and their relationship, and her caring for I believe, the grandmother of the family and something like that. And that's kind of the movie. It's dealing with her as a person, and she's kind of introverted. She doesn't really want to talk with them, but the family, or specifically the mother of the family, like wants to be her best friend and do things with her. And I'm watching the movie and I'm like, she's here for a job. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't want to go to the mall. And like at one point, the mom like invites her to a Zumba class. And the girl just like doesn't want to be there, so she leaves. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's very real life, like
Yeah.
regular stuff like
Does
that.
it does
That's
it
kind of what these movies are,
does
you
it
know?
does it feel like Vinegar Syndrome put out this other set, and they put a few things out from this filmmaker that did Uncle Kent too. I think it's Joe
Oh, yes.
Swanberg.
Joe Swanberg, yeah.
Yeah.
If Joe Swanberg's films feel more polished than this. They
Okay.
feel well more polished, well more of a production or produced than these. These feel very much like a local film that you would see at a local film festival in somebody's small town. Like I live in a small city and we have a local film festival, and it feels like these movies would show there. It's something like that. And the other movie I got to see, Stinking Heaven, was a movie about all of these addicts living in this kind of sober house, in this weird like kind of sober commune of people that they were addicts that are trying to get their lives together, and they're just they're living in somebody's house. Like, this doesn't seem like it's sponsored by any type of clinic or any type of church or any type of religious or official organization in general. It feels like just somebody set up a a house for people to come live at if they needed to try to get sober. And just kind of chaos ensues because you have a bunch of people with instability because they're dealing with like alcoholism or drug addiction or things like that. Or and of course, with all of those things, we all know if you know people like this, comes a lot of mental health issues and things like that. And there's nothing in this place that is there to deal with any of this, so it's rather chaotic. And the actors in this film are playing this really naturally. Like I said, it feels so surreal, like it's real life. Like it's really just and like out there and just not formed in any way. So these films are rather unique and they're super short too. Like I think each of these movies is like 70 minutes or around that length long. So they're not very long films, but they feel very rudimentary and very stripped down to bare nothing. So I found that fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So that's why I wanted to talk about them. Um, other people probably know these films a lot more than I do. So this is kind of a crash course in all those things. But Steven, anything else here that looked interesting to you?
Uh, I I didn't really get a chance to look at anything else. I you know, just on the surface, uh, Connie putting out Man on the Brink, that looked kind of like fun.
Mm,
Um,
they
just
do
because
put out good stuff.
yeah, they do, and looks like a fun kind of action film. So I would like to look into that one more.
Yeah, I do want to shout out, of course, Deaf Crocodile putting out another animated film in Bubble
Yeah,
Bath,
yeah,
which is just a cool. Just it just looks really cool.
yeah.
It looks like an animated film. Um, it's a Hungarian animated film, and this has very much been their thing lately. Is putting out these super unique, like Eastern European um, animated films from like the 70s and 80s that neither of us have ever heard of, and I'm pretty sure not many people have heard of it. But Def Crocodile puts out really great stuff. Of course, we are our friend over at VHS Hitfest putting out a movie called Blind Faith. Have you seen the cover for that, Stephen?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
cover is wild. It's looks like yeah, it's like someone getting choked from behind and tortured, but it looks like he's on fire as well. I don't know, it's wild. Then the back, yeah, this movie looks just like pure VHS shot on video,
looks like a
nothing
pure
craziness.
VHS shit fest.
Yeah, it really does. Um, I did hear a lot of great things about this documentary called Carpet Cowboys that's put out by Memory, which I think is a
And
company that's relatively brand
that's
new.
believe that's a new label. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a new label. And what's so interesting about this, so I'm just gonna read the synopsis and then we can move on. But in Dalton, Georgia, the carpet capital of the world, we find the unsung creators behind the psychedelic carpets lining casinos, offices, and hotel hallways. These visionaries are shaping the ground beneath our feet. Apparently, in this small town in like northern Georgia, they make like 85% of like the world's carpets or something like that. It's something absurd. And it's a movie that's I've also heard is more so about the American dream than it is about, the carpet industry. You know what I mean? It's more of a vehicle for telling a meaningful thematic story than it is about telling us how carpets are made, which I think are the best documentaries, are the ones that you think are about something, but they're really about something
well, I
else.
mean, I hope it'd be hard for me to believe that they were like, "Shit, movie about carpets?
I know.
Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, it's like a lot of carpet
And then
enthusiasts
they
out
start
there.
watching it, and it's about like human emotion, the human condition. They're like, "Man, this is some boring shit." I was trying to watch some carpet stuff. Like it would surprise me. So
Yeah, it
I don't know.
surprised me as well. Um, yeah, so those are most of what's coming out. I don't know, for some reason there were just a lot more documentaries this time around than I remember before. Um, so Umbrella, we were just talking about Umbrella. They're putting so this Cosmic Psychos and Stranded are both documentaries about music.
Yeah.
Um, Cosmic Psychos is a documentary about this this band called the Cosmic Psychos, who apparently were like super influential on like the grunge scene and a lot of grunge bands, and they were a punk rock band from many decades ago, Australian punk rock band actually. This is available to stream on Tubi, as well as Stranded, which is I think talking about also punk rock as well, and this is also available to stream on Tubi if anybody's interested. I just didn't have the time to get into them, but I thought that's kind of cool. But I think that's pretty much it. I know Agfa's putting out the Rock of Fire Explosion, which is another documentary. A lot of documentaries in this one. ETR Media, Everything to Entertain You, the Story of Video Headquarters, is another documentary. This one's actually about a video store, which would be right up our alley, Stephen. I think this was about a video store that closed in 2015, but it had been open for decades. So that's really fascinating. I mean, we've lost so many video stores, small video stores, big video stores. I mean, big chain stores now are not even carrying movies
Medium-sized video
anymore. It's a
stores.
mess. It's a mess. I know.
Small, medium-sized video
Small,
stores.
medium, large, all the biggie sized.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, Stephen, but apparently, after the whole Super Size Me documentary from like 20 years ago, like McDonald's stopped pushing their biggie sized option for their meals. I didn't know that. Like, because remember back in the 90s when biggie size first came out, like every time you would go to McDonald's, they would ask you if you wanted to biggie size for like an extra whatever cents, whatever amount of money. Apparently, like they stopped doing that after a while because of like health reasons.
Yeah, they were like,
Never really knew that.
we're not gonna try to influence you. But they did. But the thing is they still do it today.
At the they still do it at the movie theater.
But they don't. I mean, they don't say it like that. But they're like, "Do you want to upsize that?" They say upsize.
Yeah, yeah. For like, I mean, if you want to go from a medium to a large, it's like for an extra 75 cents. Or
yeah,
they try to rationalize it to you. It looks good.
They still try.
Yeah, they do.
Well, let's move on. Let's go. We're going back in time a little bit.
In time
to Arrow's. Some of Arrow's slate. They of course put out 4K for Basket Case. I know that's a popular one. But I know we have this Robert Altman film, The Cold Day in the Park.
Yes,
is one I know you watched. Yeah, I wanted to watch it. It looked interesting.
Yeah, so The Cold Day in the Park is another. I call him Bob Altman because I guess we were on
your friends.
We were on that level at one point.
It's like really. Bob De Niro.
Yeah, I know. That's so weird to me. By the way, when it's like, some people call people by their first name, like certain actors and stuff,
or like Bobby Downey Jr.
Yeah, Bob.
I don't know.
Anytime Martin Scorsese refers to Robert De Niro as Bob, I just think it's so wild to me. But that Cold Day in the Park has been released here in Region A land by Olive Films back in 2013. And the reason why I keep bringing this up because I'm guessing all of the old Olive Films licenses.
You like olives?
Because
you like olives?
I do like olives on pizza though. Only on pizza. Oh, look at you. Oh, I didn't know you were such a pizza snob around here.
Threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm okay.
The thing is, there's certain things that if you put it on a pizza, I'll eat it. But if you put it like by itself, I don't have any interest in it.
I tried Hawaiian pizza for the first time.
All right. What'd you think?
It's fine, but I was like, I don't even taste it. Like I don't even taste it.
Yeah, I've had pineapple on pizza before. I've had Hawaiian pizza.
And I don't taste the pineapple.
I don't mind it. I mean, I wouldn't order it as like a first choice or even a second choice or even a third choice. But if I was at some place and they had Hawaiian pizza, I'd have it.
I just go classic pepperoni. That's it. I don't need all that. I don't need all that bullshit.
Very true.
Let's talk about cold.
It can get a little messy. But speaking of something that's not really messy, or honestly, things do get messy in this movie.
It's messy.
Yeah, things do get a little messy. But I wanted to mention that. So that I did want to mention that Cold Day in the Park has been released on Blu-ray before, but it's getting a Blu-ray re-release now. And yeah, it's a Bob Altman film that I had never seen before. It had also been released in the UK in 2016 by, looks like, Eureka during their Master of Cinema line. But this is obviously a brand new release. And it's a movie that it's so hard to describe Robert Altman's films because they're so unique to him. They're so specific to his he just had a certain way of making movies. His films have a certain feeling to them, a certain style to them. They're kind of unique, and this film is of no exception to that. Um, it it's it's a movie about this woman who one day, yeah, she's kind of well off a little bit. She has like a nice apartment and all this kind of stuff. In New York, at least I believe it's New York. Either way, it's kind of irrelevant. She sees this guy outside sitting in a park, and it's a raining day, and it's a rainy, cold day. So she invites him in, and he kind of just stays there. She kind of just keeps him there. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't verbalize anything. He doesn't talk to her or communicate with her, but she still has this feeling that she needs to take care of this person, like give him a bath, buy him clothes, feed him, all of these things. She's got this innate feeling to do this. We learn certain we learn way more about this guy later on. The woman in this case is portrayed by Sandy Dennis, who was an Academy Award-winning actress who was in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which had
Mm.
come out, I think, some years earlier, the Mike Nichols film. Astonishing work. If you've never seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, it's some of the greatest acting you'll ever see in film, in my opinion. She is
Is that a Jeff Nichol? Not Jeff
Mike
Nichols.
Nichols.
Mike Nichols.
Yeah, it's available on Blu-ray through Warner Archive. There was a Warner Brothers DVD I had for years as well, starring the late great George Segal, as well as Elizabeth Taylor is in the film as well as Sandy Dennis, as well as Richard Burton is in the film as well. And it's an acting tour de force. It's based on a play, just truly incredible. But yeah, this woman, and she just becomes obsessed with this young boy in this movie. By young boy, I mean like he's like 19. I don't want to make it sound creepy or anything, but
He's a
she just
young
kind of becomes
boy.
obsessed.
He's a young boy
Yeah,
giving him a bath.
and the movie is dealing with kind of all of these emotional underneath the surface things that she's got going on
Yeah.
that the film doesn't quite come out and express plain as day to you as a viewer. You kind of have to pick up these things as you go along. A lot of like sexual repression and all of those things. And the thing about repression or oppression or any of those things where people are holding things inside or having things held against them, once it comes out, it can come out in dangerous ways or negative ways or just uncontrollable ways. And this film does get into those things.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
that. It's like that movie X.
I guess.
You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. If you think
Yeah, right.
more actually with Pearl,
Well,
the
yeah, sure. Pearl
Pearl is
focuses
more of
in.
that.
Yeah,
Where Mia Goth is just having these spurts of like uncontrollable emotion about the, like anger and sexual
sexual
things
repression.
and all this kind of stuff, and just screaming. She's a great screaming actress. Speaking of which, the third one's supposed to come out this
Yeah,
year, I believe.
yeah.
Maxine,
Maxine. Yeah,
Maxine, which is the sequel to X, but also the sequel to Pearl. I still need to get Pearl. Actually, I have X in my collection, but I have to get Pearl. That's just me talking out loud.
fun series by Ty West.
Yes, yes, but Cold Day in the Park is dealing with kind of like that way, but of course in a much more toned down Robert Altman-esque way, where it's dealing
Yes.
with all of these underneath things. Really good film. This is a 2-disc edition, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna get this.
Cool.
I think they also put out Gosford Park as well, on Blu-ray, which I also need to get
It's not
from
good.
them.
Don't worry
But I
about
have
that
a
one.
feeling once I get it, a 4K will come out. You know something like that will
Yeah, you
be
might as well wait for
announced.
the 4K on Gosford Park.
The way Arrow is doing it when it comes to like, I mean, they just put out a 4K of Basket Case. I mean, which is a movie I know a lot of people like. I saw it years ago on DVD. I rented it. It was probably one of the last movies I ever rented from Blockbuster was Basket Case. Um, don't ask me. That's a long story, but yeah, it's such an 80s. It's a cult movie for a reason. It's a cult movie
Yeah.
for a reason. I know a lot of people love it. But moving on from there, Steven, there's another movie here I want to talk about called The Tin Star. Talk about
Okay.
another Western. This is a timeless western from Anthony Mann, who directed many films, but most chiefly he directed Winchester 73, The Far Country. He directed The Man from Laramie. He directed, there's another movie on my shelf that I can't remember. It was put out by Criterion, actually, and now I'm completely blanking on it. But Anthony Mann, great director, worked a lot with Jimmy Stewart post World War II, making great westerns. And he did some film noir back in the day as well. Anthony Mann, I think one of the most underrated directors of all time. Scorsese's a big fan. That's all I needed to know.
He's a big fan of every
Yes,
fucking
that's
body.
also true.
He's such a nice guy.
But when hunter Morgan Hickman, portrayed by Henry Fonda, rolls into town, he finds the population paralyzed by fear. The local sheriff has been killed, leaving the inexperienced Ben Owens, portrayed by none other than Anthony Perkins. I believe this is a pre-Psycho Anthony Perkins, if memory serves.
Just
Trying to
got him
remember.
the job.
Yes, 1957. You never know, actually. So you've got pre-Psycho Anthony Perkins to fill the void with the hope of securing a permanent position. Um, yeah, Morg discovers that the newly appointed young sheriff is having difficulty facing the provocations of a notorious bully, Bart Bogartis. What a name. Portrayed by Neville Brand. Morg, a former sheriff, takes it upon himself to teach Owens how to assert himself and maintain order. So you've got the wily veteran teaching the young, brash guy how to be a sheriff. That's kind of at the cusp of this movie. And they just happen to be portrayed by Henry Fonda and Anthony Perkins. And I think it's a really good movie. I really dig the movie a lot. The movie's done by Elmer Bernstein, a great composer. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a really solid western. I highly recommend it. And this, I believe, is the only time this movie has gotten a Blu-ray release. I don't think it's gotten a Blu-ray release from anywhere else ever. I just wanted to make sure I didn't just lie out of my teeth, and of course I did. That's what I do, Steven. That's what I do.
Son of a bitch.
No, yes, no, yes, no, no, no.
Yes,
No,
no,
there
no,
was
no,
another 10
yes.
star that's not this movie. There was a 10-star TV series apparently in 2017. And yeah, that's not this. But yeah, so this is the first time this has ever seen the light of day on Blu-ray. So that's really cool. So yeah, if anybody's another fan of westerns, you got your fill from Vinegar Syndrome and you get your fill from Arrow, which is really nice to hear. So we've got, yeah, I want to mention, yeah, the brand new audio commentary from film critic Justine Smith, who we've had as a guest here on the podcast, right, Stephen?
Yes, we have.
Yes. So she's in here. Anytime I see a name of somebody we've interviewed, I can kind of trust the release. Because if they thought the movie was good enough to work on, then I think it's good enough to at least watch and probably own. That's just my personal philosophy in life.
Sounds like biased to me.
Oh, I do. Well, the thing is, I do trust certain people when it comes to certain things. Like I trust you, Steven.
No, you don't.
Yeah, if you get something and you say it's good, then I know that it's good.
You usually.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I'm a little weird. Sometimes I like some stuff that's just weird.
I guess that's true.
But
I mean,
you know,
we all have our peculiarities. We all have our specific
I
things.
think like
But in the
anybody.
general sense of things, when it comes to like collecting movies,
Sure.
I mean, if you buy a release and say, "Hey, this release is fantastic," like it's worth getting. Like
Yeah.
I'm happy I bought this, then I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's worth getting.
Yeah.
But
I think anybody that can explain themselves at least, you know, that's when you can believe the person.
no, I guess that's
If
true.
you just say, "Oh, it was good," you know,
Yeah.
like, well,
Right.
explain yourself. Why is it good?
Yeah, why is it good?
You know,
So that's the 10-star. That's the cold light of. That's the. I almost said the cold light of day. That's
cold
not
light.
the movie.
That's the Paul Schrader. That's Paul Schrader. But again,
Yes, it is. And that's that cold day in the park. So we got some.
That's a Nicolas Cage movie.
Yes, it is. Holy
With Paul
heck!
Schrader directing.
But yeah, we got some Robert Altman and Anthony Mann. I'm like, I'm very excited for both of those. Anything else we've got cooking here? Let me take a look. I don't know if you wanted to go over to Imprint right now.
Sure.
Imprint does have some things. They actually had 2 separate announcements which didn't really throw us for a loop, but it did make things a little more difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's we were wondering whether they were going to still do like Imprint proper, because they did announce earlier in the month their first Asian line releases. So they had three.
Yeah.
Uh, the
So
first one they got is Lost in the Stars, which is a 2023 film.
it is indeed.
And then we have a film called The Sea is Watching from 20. I can't speak 2002, and then we got The Blind Swordsman Zatoichi from 2003.
Yeah. Yeah, and these look like they will be numbered, like a
Yeah.
number 1, number 2, number 3. The one I wanna take a look at, and the one that interested me the most is The Blind Swordsman Zatoichi,
Oh yeah.
or just called Zatoichi, because I've been aware of this movie for years. I wanted to buy this movie for years. Um, if you know the Criterion box set of Zatoichi: The Blind Swordsman, then you probably know of this movie. This is uh, kind of it was supposed to be a reboot, I guess, of a reboot, remake, whatever you wanna call it, of the Zatoichi character, and it's a movie that's directed, written, co-edited, and stars Takeshi Kitano, um, as Zatoichi. And of course, Takeshi Kitano from Battle Royale, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Um, yeah, this movie is interesting in the sense of what it's trying to do in terms of reviving this character of Zatoichi, the blind swordsman. Like I said, I have the Criterion collection set from many years ago. I've made my way through most of it. I haven't watched the whole thing. There's been so many Zatoichi films, and there was a Zatoichi TV series in the '70s that you can track down on DVD. It's not it's pretty hard actually, because you've gotta mix and match where you buy them from. Um, you can only find, like, the first season or 2 here, and then you gotta go overseas to get the other ones. I don't know, it's a whole big thing. Someone just released the whole thing here for the love of heck. But yeah, this is Takeshi Kitano trying to revive the character, and the movie is cool. It's cool if you know the character, it's cool if you know those old movies, and it's got that modern violence that you're probably into if you are. For me, the problem I have with the movie is it's got, like, CGI blood in it, and it looks like
Mm,
CGI blood. It's
yeah.
like it's like,
Gross.
wow, give me fake blood splatter all day, like,
Yeah.
just throw a bucket of blood at a wall and I'm cool. The CGI blood sometimes, at least I thought it was CGI, it looked like CGI blood to me, just 'cause, like, it kinda takes you out of it a little bit, but what's cool is the sound effects when the sword hits feels like a sledgehammer is hitting, like a big whooshing sound, like a big whoosh and a like I said, sledgehammer, big bang hits, and it's pretty cool from that perspective. But the story I think was lacking a little bit, but still cool anyways. And it's still something I actually want in my collection because if I have all those Zatoichi films that I think Steven's going to show up right now, I kind of want everything when it comes to Zatoichi.
Yeah, man.
That's
I
one of
mean,
the
look at
that's one of the best box arts I think
it's one
Criterion's
of the
ever done.
coolest early on sets that they had. Yeah,
Yeah, it really is, and I
yeah.
believe that was done during that time frame that I liked when they were doing the Blu-ray DVD combos. So you get the Blu-rays and you get the DVDs as well. At least I remember that. At least that's what my set is like. Um, yeah, it's really cool. I remember showing off that set a little bit when I did um a movie collection spotlight on um oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. Uh Steven Yojimbo.
Oh, Akira Kurosawa?
No, the actor.
Oh, I mean, not Takashi Miike, Toshiro Famune?
Yes, yes, Toshiro Mifune. I don't know
Mifune.
why I just blanked on Toshiro Mifune's name, but I did a whole video on it for, like I think it was, like, his 100th birthday celebration or something a couple of years ago, and because one of the movies is Yojimbo versus Zatoichi, and it's only found in that set, and I'm like, I had to show it. So that was pretty cool. So this Zatoichi movie is interesting, um, and it has been released here, and I'm just trying to remember who put it out. Um it's let's see. The one thing that's um kind of annoying about that set is that it doesn't have the last Zatoichi film by the original actor, the one from 1989. I think you have to buy that separately. So that's what's really annoying about that set. It's not the complete set of that. It's the almost complete set. And like I said, you still need to get the Zatoichi TV series from the 70s. So as I was saying all that, yeah, oh god, it's Disney Buena Vista. Holy heck. So Disney Buena Vista put this out in 2009 on Blu-ray here in the US. And I'm pretty sure it's been re-released since then from Paramount Pictures. So in 2022, so it is available here, but I'm pretty sure that Blu-ray didn't have nearly as much in the way of special features as this one does. Yeah, that one had um, just looks like a behind-the-scenes documentary and a collection of interviews. And behind-the-scenes documentary was 40 minutes, and the collection of interviews was 22 minutes. But I think this has much more than that, if I remember. Or at least it has. Yeah, it's got a new audio commentary. It's got a making of the Blind Swordsman. It's got crew interviews. I think it ports over all that stuff plus a new audio commentary.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, we did get a proper release, and this is the release for April for Imprint.
Yeah.
It was 3 collections. Um,
Yeah, we
uh,
got another volume of the adventure films, Tales of Adventure,
yes,
with 4 films: Ten Tall Men, The Heroes of Telemark, Sands of the Kalahari, and then Lost Command or Lost Commando. Oh, it's Lost Command. And then we got a box set for the director. It's called Directed by John Farrow. And it has a group of films here. We got Commando Strike at Dawn at 1942. We have The Hitler Gang. I can't wait to watch that one. 1944. Night Has a Thousand Eyes, 1948, which I believe has a Kino release.
yeah. Night of a Thousand Eyes has. This is its 3rd release on
Yeah,
Blu-ray,
I was gonna
actually.
say it's been released a lot.
It,
Submarine Command, 1951.
that's also getting a Kino release actually coming up.
Okay, and
So
then
yeah.
1953 we have Botany Bay.
Yeah, so we've gone from like Middle Eastern folktale, like stuff like that, to movies all set within the jungle, and now we're going to like action movies.
Yeah, John Farrow has done a lot of different
I'm talking
genres.
about for the Adventures one, and then for John
Well,
Farrow.
I mean, even John Farrow himself did a lot of different types of
Yes, yeah, he was one
genre.
of those guys who did a lot of
Journeyman. He's a
a
journeyman kind of.
journeyman. Yeah, he's got 50 directorial things, but he, like you said, he has done a lot. Like he's done The Big Clock, and he's done Alias Nick Beale, but he's also done movies like Botany Bay and movies like Hondo. So and The Sea Chase. So he's done like you just said, a journeyman and kind of a genreless director,
Yeah,
really.
really. Yeah,
But he's shown up so many times in movies we've covered
yeah,
and movies that I've seen. Like he just kind of solid. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah.
said, like a journeyman. And then the 3rd box is actually the one I'm most interested in. The one I actually put on my list of things that I would like to add to my collection. That's the Kim Novak 3-film box set, Steven.
Yes,
Um,
yeah. It's got 3 films: 1957's Pal Joey, then 57's Janine Eagles, and then 1959's Middle of the Night, which I think you
yes,
watched.
yes, I did. I did watch Middle of the Night. Gene Eagles and Middle of the Night are both getting worldwide Blu-ray premieres through this set. Pal Joey's been released, another one that's been released a bunch of damn times. so so Pal Joey, I own this movie already, but it's been released a couple of times. Just here in Region A land, it's been released by Twilight Time back in 2012. It's been released by Sony straight up in 2021 because it is a Columbia Pictures film. So Sony's got all that back catalog. And how I own it, it's been released in a Rita Hayworth Blu-ray collection by Mill Creek, which is how I have it. And yeah, Pal Joey, it's a fine film. It stars Rita Hayworth, Frank Sinatra, and Kim Novak. It's directed by George Sidney. Um, So nightclub singer Joey Evans has big dreams of starting his own nightclub. Despite a meaningful connection with chorus girl Linda English, he begins seducing Vera Simpson, a wealthy widow and ex-burlesque dancer he hopes will provide financial backing for his club. So we've got a film which has a bit of a love triangle in it. And just Rita Hayworth and Kim Novak look stunning in this movie. It's a movie that I would recommend if you're fans of Kim Novak, Frank Sinatra, Rita Hayworth, you gotta watch it. And so technically, if I buy this box set, I will be owning this movie for a second time, but that's just what film collectors do. That's just what
You do.
film collectors do.
Sometimes you have no choice.
You got no choice. You kind of have to, you gotta have to do it. And Gene Eagles, I did not get to see. On I believe is it streaming on Tubi? It is. It is streaming on Tubi. But Middle of the Night is honestly the reason why I would buy this box set. It is that good of a movie, I think, and it's a movie that I think um is
In
worth
the
owning.
middle of the night,
Yeah,
I've been walking in my sleep.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Nominated for the Palme d'Or at the 1959 Cannes Film Festival, Middle of the Night tells the story of a scandalous love affair between a 24-year-old divorcee, Kim Novak, and 56-year-old widower portrayed by Frederick March. So we've got a movie that's dealing with something that is obviously taboo in 1959 when it came out, but it's a movie that also dealing with something that is very much discussed today, the whole age gap thing. You know what I mean? It's movie that it's a thing that's talked about in social media all the time now, and all the kinds of different contexts and different meanings and all that kind of stuff. It's mostly more scandalous things than this. This movie is two adults, you know, finding a connection after dealing with certain personal losses. Kim Novak is dealing with a marriage that's just kind of dissolved, and Frederick March is dealing with losing his wife. And it's been a few years after losing his wife, so he's trying to kind of move on with his life, but he's also trying to assess like what is the rest of his life going to be? Because apparently in 1959, when you're 56 years old, you think you're going to pass away relatively soon. So you're kind of in the twilight years of your life, which is a much different context than now. If you look at people at that age now, they're doing all kinds of, you know, all kinds of amazing things that people in their 50s didn't do, 60, 70 years ago. That just shows you kind of the magic of modern medicine and modern society and modern health and dieting and stuff and life. But I love Frederick March. I love Kim Novak. This movie is written by Paddy Chayefsky. Paddy Chayefsky, who is an extraordinary screenwriter. He wrote like Network, which I think is one of the best screenplays of all time. He wrote the screenplay for this, so the screenplay is really good. The dialogue is really good, and the acting is also really good in this film. I just really like Kim Novak. Kim Novak, of course, was in Vertigo, the Alfred Hitchcock film Vertigo, which is one of the greatest films ever made, according to many, and I wouldn't disagree with that. She has always been stunning on screen. She was also in that film. Um, what's that film that she was in that same year? Bell, Book, and Candle, which I think also came out in 1959 with Jimmy Stewart. A little magic going on in that film as well. I think she plays a witch in that film, if I remember. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Woohoo,
So I really
witchy
I
woman.
love these film focused box sets. They're just so random in terms of who they're gonna choose. Like we got a George Peppard box set. Never thought we'd get a
Shit.
George Peppard box then.
Mm.
We've got one from Gene Hackman. We've gotten one from Jessica Lange, Marlon Brando. It's kind of a big no brainer there. But yeah, I like these film focus and these director focused box sets. And this Kim Novak one is something right up my alley as a lover of films of that era. So that was really cool to see, and that was one of the things that kind of broke late last week. Um, I think it broke like Friday. I think they announced that Thursday or Friday. So that was really cool. So let's see what we've got else. What else we've got here? I think that is that it,
Well,
Steven?
well, we have
You
Studio
do got one more.
Canal put out the Comedy Man.
Yes, thank you
Um,
for reminding me about the Comedy Man. Um, this is a this is a good, a really good film coming out from the BFI. Um, Another film. I think this is its first release. Yeah, this is its only Blu-ray release anywhere in the world. So, yeah, Charles Burr, known as Chick, has spent his adult life acting in small repertory companies all over the UK, and he's never had much luck. All too aware that he's no longer young, Chick makes one last stab at finding success in London. That's kind of what the movie's about. Not really. So, it is about this guy who he's been like a lifelong like a stage actor, or at least he's trying to be a stage actor. He's never really had great success. He's kind of living in an apartment that's kind of run down. He's a working actor, on the stage. And he's kind of a purist in that regard. He doesn't really want to take the easy road or the easy way. Like, for example, he looks down on people who take jobs as doing commercial work. He thinks it's like demeaning to the craft of acting or something like that. But of course, you can guess it. At some point in this film, he's got to go down the road that he doesn't want to go to, just in order to like survive financially and really survive in his life in general. So the movie is very much more about how you struggle for your art and for your craft and for your goals in life than it is about anything else.
So inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, kind of like Inside Llewyn Davis is on this track. You know what I mean? Like how hard do you want it? Or even something like The Red Shoes,
Yeah.
which I think is the epitome of that. Like, do you
Whiplash.
give it all?
Whip.
Whiplash is
Yeah.
another one. Like
Yeah.
literally, you bleeding, you dying for this. You know what I mean? How bad do you want it? I mean, for in these movies depicted in a very literal way, um, and it's very much contemporary because you see a lot of people um, struggling to be actors and actresses and struggling in the entertainment business just to try to make it. And then sometimes they just give up and just like, yeah, I'm moving back home or I'm going to do something else. And then there are a lot of people who just stick it out. I mean, I've always said this. I think like 95% of actors and actresses are just people like working from job to job, like just working actors and actresses, whether it be acting on the stage or whether it be acting in movies or TV or wherever or whatever. I think they're just kind of living moment to moment. There's only a select few like celebrities out there or people who are really well off where they could not work for like 2 or 3 years and still be financially fine. You know what I mean? I think most of them like need the consistent work in order to survive
Well,
in these economic times.
the richer you get, the more money you need to maintain it. Your
That's also
richness.
true. Like lifestyles do change, but I think also like economic circumstances change. Like for example,
Sure.
living in Los Angeles is probably a lot different than living in, where you live or where I live.
Sure.
It's probably economically you need to maintain a certain level of income or certain level of financial comfort in order to just be there. You know what I mean? Like the basic necessities of like a place to live and to eat. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
but you boil it down to that. I mean, of course, then you got other people who want to like they want to live a certain life. They want to go to certain places and do certain things. That's a whole different other story. Uh, but this movie, The Comedy Man, is just depicting kind of the harshness of trying to achieve that, and also like trying to achieve that when you're an older actor. Like these are like older guys who are well past their prime in terms of like their craft and their ability to kind of sell themselves in auditions and sell themselves um uh to be in certain roles and stuff. Their things are limited because of their age and their circumstances. And we see that now too. Where like, certain people get pigeonholed into certain things because of their age or because of, all kinds of stuff. So I think the movie's really, really good and really, really solid. Highly recommended. It's put out by the BFI and the BFI Classics line. So yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it already. But I think that may be nearly it. But there was one thing that did drop today.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We'll end with the news of Fun City Editions.
Yes,
So yeah, they as they've been doing lately since they've kind of went off on their own, they've been announcing their new releases through Letterboxd. The Letterboxd dropped a trailer for their next thing coming out in May.
and there's also a poster too
In a
of
poster.
what
Yeah.
it's going to look like. It's a three film set.
Yeah. It's a 3-film set called Seeing Red, 3 French vigilant thrillers. The 3 films are Shot Pattern from 1982, Street of the Damned, 1984, and from 1984 also we have Blacklist, and this set reflects a reflect of collective paranoia and random violence in cities, as well as the international box office success of films such as Death Wish, which depict ordinary citizens directly confronting criminals. So yeah, I love that. And you know, we'll probably get Jonathan Hertzberg back on here because we gotta talk to him about this. But at some point before these come out, I want to bring him on and talk about these because
Yeah, this is coming out in May, so we do have
you got a
some
little bit of time. I'm gonna probably try to get him in here in March or something. But you know, just that, you know, they've already done it with the was it the Fatal Femmes?
Yes, I was actually thinking Primetime Panic, but that's just
Well, I
me.
was just saying like them dipping out of like American cinema and
Okay.
going into like you know international cinema and but finding something that still feels like Fun City, and I'm like, dude, it's still got that vibe.
It
You know,
does. Yeah, I was thinking that same thing. It's got, these super under the radar 80s and 70s films that they've kind of unearthed and given to us on these in
yeah,
these great editions. This is very much in that vibe. It just happens to be,
a
three crime-based French films. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
They just have, but they're of that same era. They're of that same grid. If you see the
yeah.
trailer, I mean, you, they look like what we've come to
It could
see from them.
be an American film if I didn't know it was French. Like it feels like it has an influence from American cinema
Yeah, it looks
on
like it's
it.
got that urban grit and city life
Yeah,
vibe of 80s stuff, like kind of like their first relief of Alphabet City.
yeah, like an
It feels
Alphabet
like
City.
that.
Or, yeah,
Um, yeah, it's yeah, just they're doing great work. It's glad to see them still doing awesome stuff here in 2024. I got to catch up with some Fun City stuff. That's what I got to prioritize before he comes on,
yeah.
just so I don't look dumb.
You're not too far behind. They don't put out tons of volume, so
I
you know you
I
can
do need
catch
to get
up.
that Fatal Femmes though,
Yeah, you should
and I
get
do
that.
need Primetime Panic 2 as
Yeah,
well.
maybe you are behind. You are.
Steven, I'm way behind now that I think about it. Holy shit.
You-
I'm buried deep.
did you get Party Girl?
I did get Party Girl.
Okay, good.
I look at it, it's on my chair, so I see
Yeah,
it every single
you
day.
don't have
I
Heartbreakers.
I've got all my Fun Cities, like, piled up over on a chair over there, so I have them all together.
A Fun Cities chair.
I
Cool.
have my Fun City chair. I got it right next to, like, Casablanca and, Godzilla. It's a
All right.
weird chair. It's a
Yeah.
party chair in general.
Yeah. I can't wait for you to do an eventual collection video where you have just shit everywhere.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
even
It's not
yeah, it's
fun.
not even close to being relatively organized. It's out of control again.
Yeah.
Just when I thought I cleaned it up enough to, like, clean up some space and some air, put things on shelves, move things around, I just get a whole bunch of other things and it's way back to where it was before.
Yeah.
It's it's
Well,
it's like an avalanche.
you're gonna need to fix it up or not because eventually you need to do a collection. Because that's what I'm working on. If you saw in different social medias that for the show, I posted a poll asking people how I should organize my collection, and part of
I
that
did see
is
that.
yeah, part of that is me wanting to organize my collection and also do kind of a collection video, kind of going through my whole collection eventually. That's the idea. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I see if I have time for all that, but I'm motivated. I want to do it. I've always just kind of put my shit up on the shelf. It's basically organized by label at the moment, but definitely not in alphabetical order. I can tell you that. So I got to work on that. But that is it. That is spy number 132 of Chasing Labels closed. It was fun as usual. Andrew, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Feeling good.
All right. Well, just so everybody knows, we did have our Unwatched Pile episode last Monday. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please go watch that or go listen to it on our podcast feed. And then this coming week, of course, we're a bi-weekly show, so you won't see this for another couple weeks. But next week, we will have an interview with a friend who's coming back, Julia. What's her last name? I'm sorry, I'm always bad with
Julia
names.
Marchesi?
Mackenzie, that's it. She did a short film. We talked about it with her when we interviewed her last time, and she had not come out with the short film yet. But now it's now out, and unfortunately, it's not. I don't know if it's seeable. I don't think you can see it, but we're going to talk about it, and
Mm.
it's based around a Stephen King story. And then with that, we're going to do a fun little thing where we talk about 3 of our suggestions for date night movies, being that it's Valentine's Day. Because this will release on Valentine's Day. Each of us are going to suggest 3 date night movies, just random, whatever, from all 3 of us, and just have some fun with that. So that'll be coming out next week. And then, yeah, Unwatched Pile, end of the month, you'll see that coming up. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks everybody who's hung with us live. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.